Hey there, Staunch gang. Looking good, looking good. We're back here with another recommendation. A film I found to be an overall divisive film amongst fans and reviewers, but to me, well, I'm a big David Ayer fan, and if you are too, then chances are you also really dug The Tax Collector.
You heard of me?
Here we get the tale of local tax collectors in LA, David and his shooter, Creeper. Well, they find themselves compromised when their boss's rival shows up to town. He really screws things up for the guys. Again, I'm a huge David Ayer fan. I love all of his movies. Well, I guess I can't say all of them. For the most part, I like all of them. I mean, his stuff I didn't care for never seemed to be his fault. You know what I mean? It's like more so studio interference and whatnot. But again, I love his connected film universe. So the films that are part of that, that's my shit. So yeah, I'm kind of biased here. Although I do have some negatives for the tax collector as well. But, anyways, let's just get to it, fool. Hey, fool, check it out. Here's my pros, fool. Since the start of the David Ayer verse with Training Day, I've been watching close when it comes to Ayer's LA crooked cop and crime stories. My personal favorites being Harsh Times, and I'm partial to Street Kings as well. But, I really like them all. And here in The Tax Collector, it's especially awesome since we get a recurring character first seen in Training Day. The Blood gang leader, Bone, played by David Ayer's regular and technical advisor, Clay Sloan. The character of Bone, of course, we first saw him in Training Day before popping up in other David Ayer films. And he also popped up in the show Cherish the Day the same year that The Tax Collector came out, playing the same character. It's very weird, in an Oprah TV series. I never heard of the show, but it's pretty badass that's connected to the David Ayer verse. But it's little things like that make this a little more special to eagle-eyed fans. And it's always fun to see these characters from these different movies just pop up. It's like, hey, what's up, Vato? And of course, there's plenty of the guys hanging out just driving around talking scenes that we all know and love from Ayer. Here in The Tax Collector, done kind of strange. Like the plot really builds up pretty quick with these guys just talking. I also really enjoyed the look of the film. The kind of hyper-visualized yet normal LA landscape. Something that David Ayer's films usually nail every time, and here's no exception. It's just like the hot, sweaty LA look. It reminds me of a lot of classic 90s LA films. So good. And I personally admired Shia LaBeouf in this flick as Creeper. I mean, being Hispanic myself, I definitely seen guys like this that grew up in Hispanic neighborhoods. And it's a far cry from supposed cultural appropriation. Plus, Shia got kill points regardless, so fuck off. I also loved how his character Creeper wound up in the film, something that seemed to bother a lot of people. The acting here is basically what you expect. Now that sounds like a con, but I mean that in a good way. Ayer's films never really had great acting, outside of a few obvious performances. Shia being one of them, ironically, but as far as supporting cast goes, the acting chops were never really required, in my opinion. Noel Guglielmi, the guy's an institution, I get it. Especially in these flicks, and he's a welcome presence. But what he is not is a decent actor. Same with the villain Conejo, but that still works. He's a menacing villain who I want to see again somehow in this universe. And hell, even George Lopez is great here with all his full-on Theo energy. And overall, the film is gruesome and mean-spirited with it at the same time. Something that adds to the visceral danger, and you really feel like anything can happen to these guys at any time. There's even some horror movie elements here with like the black magic stuff that happens. It gets pretty creepy, I tell you. Again, all things I really, really liked about the film. But, taking a few steps back, I think some of the acting here was a bit underwhelming for me. Hey, here's my cons, fool. What's up? My biggest con here is that I think the main character of David was miscast. Now, the actor Bobby Soto, I guess he's okay, I suppose. I haven't seen him in much. He's in that Flamin' Hot movie or whatever. But I just think he's not up to par here in Tax Collector. He's an actor, that not to hate, not to hate. I just don't think he was up to par. I was never really intimidated by David's character in this film. And I was never really convinced of his actions. Not really. But maybe that was due in part to the script, as the MMA elements were a little cringe at time. To me, at least. David is just such an uninteresting character who seems in over his head at every turn, something I thought may have been the point of the movie, but it never gets that introspective. And when the MMA elements pop up later to basically resolve the film, I mean, to each their own, I guess, I don't care for that stuff. Oh, and another con, I was really hoping David Ayer regular Michael Monks would show up. I love it when that dude pops up in these movies. Check out my interview with Michael Monks on my documentary, Forever, The Untold Story of Rock and Roll High School Forever, available now. Staunch definitely recommends The Tax Collector if you haven't seen it yet. If you have, let me know what you thought down below. I can see why this movie is kind of a give or take for most people, and I guess it even kind of is for me, but I still put it high on my list as far as the David Ayer verse goes. And honestly, like I said, I really hope to see some of these characters again. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, fool. I'll be talking about more films in the David Ayer verse soon, so stay tuned. And Staunch Gang, protect your turf, and don't forget to rewind, vato.